Good morning and welcome to the Arizona Lithium Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan, Investor and Media Relations Manager, and today I'm joined by Managing Director Paul Lloyd and Executive Director Zach Maurer, who's going to be providing a company update. As always, we've got Q&A at the very end of the presentation, so please feel free to send your questions through using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. But Paul, I'll hand to you.
Good morning, Jane, and good morning, shareholders. Thank you for your time this morning. And we thought we'd just call this webinar to summarise the 2024 year for your company. It's been a very active year, and I'd like to just first address the issue of how the year's gone for shareholders and the directors and the executive team. We all have the same goals, and that is the creation of shareholder wealth. The directors and the executive team are aligned with shareholders through quite considerable sized performance rights and options. And so even though operationally we've had a very good year on the Prairie Lithium project, we have not created shareholder value for all stakeholders. And that is our objective, and that's how we are judged. So I get some feedback from shareholders in regards to that. I think that the reason for that is the general market and the sentiment for lithium out there. I've seen the downturn in the market previously. I sort of think of the end of 2019 and 2020. It was tough years for lithium. So I would just appeal to shareholders. Our executive team are extremely motivated to put the Prairie project into production and just stay the course. Lithium will come back, and we can discuss the market in general later on in the webinar. But I thought I'd just mention that because I do get feedback from shareholders. If we look at the 2024 year, it's been an extremely active year for your company, and that has been the development of the Prairie Lithium project. We've spent nearly $20 million on drilling 6 wells up at Prairie. Zach, in a few minutes, will further describe in detail what we've done with those, with that $20 million. And it's been a very productive year. We have basically de-risked the project. We're de-risking the project via drilling additional holes. You pick up a lot of data when you drill these sort of holes, and in regards to flow rates, re-injection rates, grades of lithium, and with the number of companies that are in our data room, some of the feedback we received was we needed to drill more holes into this project. Well, we've done that this year. We've collected a lot of data and we've de-risked the project. So it's given us a fantastic platform to launch into 2025 with the goal of production at Prairie at the end of 2025. The program has gone extremely well. It's completed in a very safe format, and we have a very devoted subsurface team that have done an exceptionally good job, led by Zach and some very good executives, a large number of consultants, etc. But Saskatchewan is a terrific place to operate. I've said that before, and I'm sure I'll say it again. But we are very lucky to be just north of the US border, and it's a very pro-business province of Canada. And I personally am excited about the change in president. I think that will help the North American continent. I know there's a little bit of a disruption at the moment in regards to Canada and tariffs, but I think it's very positive, the change for AZL and AZL shareholders. So it's been a good year operationally, not a good year financially, and we look forward to an improving market for lithium, the commodity price, the sentiment in the marketplace. And our project is a world-class project, so we're well set to ride that recovery in the lithium sentiment. But without saying too much more, I'll hand over to Zach to give us a full detail rundown of that drilling program that we've completed.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And to bolt on to Paul's points in terms of some of the market conditions, Arizona Lithium was fortunate to join the Canadian delegation to the European Union for Critical Minerals raw material week this past week. So very grateful to have that opportunity to participate on that delegation, and ultimately where the Prairie Lithium project was recognized as one of the most advanced investment ready lithium projects in Canada. So there was a lot of quality discussions around the critical mineral ecosystem here in Canada, a lot of quality discussions with private companies in the investment community over in the EU, as there is a natural synergy between Canada and the EU in terms of a lot of the mining activity in Canada and the downstream manufacturing that happens in the EU. That being said, we obviously know that that's not our only end market or potential end market or jurisdiction that we can work with, as we do have multiple samples out to groups in multiple jurisdictions. So more on to the subsurface program that we executed here this past year in 2024. I'll just walk through it in a little bit more detail for everybody. So we released the PFS late last year, early this year. It was probably read by the majority of shareholders. And what that PFS highlighted was 3 pads that could each produce approximately 2,000 tons per annum of lithium carbonate equivalent. So what we did this spring was we got to work in analyzing where those 3 pad locations should be on our project area. And how we do that is we work with our subsurface team and our landmen in determining where those pad locations should be. And then we go and we negotiate those directly with the landowners themselves. And I can tell you from experience that every single one of those surface leases on our first 3 pads has been signed at the landowner's kitchen table. Being local to the area, dealing with the farmers in the area is something that I really enjoy. So, we go down, meet with the landowners, have a coffee with them, and ultimately we end up working very closely with the landowners in the region and building these pad locations with very, very supportive landowners. So to expand on what we did on those 3 pad locations, obviously we had to construct them. So the environmental process to get the construction package through the completion is it's quite quick here in Saskatchewan, given obviously the potash and the oil and gas industry that have paved the way in terms of the environmental regulatory framework. So we got those 3 pad locations built, and then we got to work drilling them out. So we drilled 3 wells on pad 1. That ultimately sets us up for a production well, disposal well, and a brackish water source well at pad 1. We then drilled 2 wells at pad 2 and 1 well at pad 3. So ultimately, late last year, early this year, we proposed 3 pad locations in a PFS, and we went out and we put that PFS to work this past year. We identified the 3 pad locations. We started to drill them out. We got a lot of really good resource data on the Dupro. We got a lot of really good data on our disposal formations, and ultimately working towards what we said that we want to do. So yeah, overall, very successful exploration program executed by the Arizona Lithium team, and ultimately aligning ourselves with the right people in the field and consultants. It's a heavy lift running these drilling and completions programs, running a drilling rig 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a workover rig 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all of the associated services with that. So very successful program that we were able to wrap up in November, and ultimately looking forward to continuing to build out the project on pad 1 in 2025. So again, focusing on pad 1, we've got 3 wells in place. That gives us a production well for our Dupro brine, a disposal well to put the lithium depleted brine back underground, and a brackish water source well that we can use for process operations and ultimately stripping the lithium out of the DLE process. So in really good shape. On the surface side, we've completed a lot of the confirmatory DLE testing that plays into the facility engineering that's well underway. And overall, yeah, we feel like we're in a really good spot operationally and from a project perspective.
Wonderful. Well, Paul, did you want to add anything to that, or are you happy if we jump into some Q&A?
Look, thanks, Zach. That was a good summary of the drilling program. For shareholders, if we look at the Prairie project, we have a world-class resource. There is no doubt about that. It's a very large resource, 350,000 acres of Crown land in a province that's very pro-business, remembering it is an oil field development area, so they are very familiar with what we are doing. All stakeholders in the area are very familiar, and in fact, they're very interested in what we're doing because it's a little bit different to the oil and gas. But predominantly the movement of the volumes of material are exactly the same. So We also have done a lot of process testing and DLE testing in regards to treatment of that brine. And now we are ready to, after Zach's summary of the subsurface, we've also ticked that box. So we do have a pad, being pad 1 with 3 wells on it, ready to go into production. So we have ticked a lot of the boxes and we have de-risked this project substantially. We will look to funding in the new year, and I can talk about that later, but we are ready to go with this project. And as Zach mentioned, detailed engineering designs and then construction to commence in late Q2 next year. So very well poised to be a great turnaround story for the lithium market. Your company AZL is at the present time.
Thanks for that, gentlemen. Let's jump into some Q&A. And again, please use the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. But let's jump in now. So how does Arizona Lithium differentiate itself from other lithium explorers and developers operating in North America?
I'll answer that question because I'm excited to answer that question, Jane. And it's a very simple answer. We've spent $20 million on drilling when other companies have basically shut up shop. We have continually developed our project and have that commitment to production by 2025, and that has differentiated ourselves. That has allowed us to continue discussions with some of the largest corporations in the world, which is very good for us. It's a lot of work. Zach spends a lot of time on that. Matt Blumberg spends a lot of time on that in New York, and that is definitely why how we have differentiated ourselves from other industry players. It's not lost in the industry that we're in an oil and gas field, so we are similar to those players in the Smackover Formation in Arkansas, but we do have a very different brine, and I would say to you, it's a brine that's much easier to treat than other places in the world. We are not down in South America, we're in North America, and we're very happy to be there.
Wonderful. Bear with me. There's lots of questions coming through. So, and this one's come through a few times. So how would you describe the current market for lithium globally, its outlook, and how does Arizona Lithium intend on aligning this with the future production plans?
So I don't know we want to talk too much about the market. We're not market commentators, and I would refer shareholders to people such as Joe Lowry and look at some of his podcasts. They're very interesting, and people within the industry remain very positive for a recovery in the lithium market. Net zero emissions by 2050, the EV revolution, electrifying the economies of the Western world, that has not gone away. So there is a massive demand there for lithium. I know that the market and the press are very negative at the moment. We'll see that change. When that changes, I wouldn't like to provide a prediction. And if you follow Joe Lowry, he does the same thing. Is it 6, 12, 18 months? Not sure, but we'll stay focused on the development of the Prairie project. And as I said, we'll be a fantastic turnaround stock.
Wonderful. Zach, this one's for you. So obviously talking about the Canadian delegation that you mentioned earlier, what is Arizona Lithium hoping to achieve through this trade delegation?
Yeah, I think it's about building relationships, all over the world and understanding who potential project partners could be wherever they may be.
Wonderful. Paul, I'll go to you for this one. And again, it's come through a few times. What are the company's capital needs and how does Arizona Lithium plan to finance projects to achieve the goals?
So as Zach mentioned, we have all the subsurface requirements in place, and now we have to build the surface material, brine handling facilities, direct lithium extraction, etc., to produce a lithium product that is saleable into the market at the end of 2025. It does require capital, and we're talking to a number of groups in relation to that. So I'm looking forward to updating the market. I may have said that before, and some of these large companies move fairly slowly, but if I could name some of them, I think shareholders would be very surprised, but I'm not allowed to. And I look forward to finalising one of those deals in the future. I don't see that we're going to tap the Australian capital markets in any great way in the short term, but we have not finalised a financing deal. And I suppose when you go back to my summary of the Prairie project, the risk is financing. So it's a good question. We have the resource, we have the technology, we know what we're doing, we've got a great team. Once we tick the box on financing, we are 100% away.
This one's for you as well, actually. So can you please provide an update on any offtake discussions at Prairie with any potential customers?
Right. So we did produce a high quality battery grade lithium carbonate from the Prairie brine. And Zach has been distributing those samples around North America and overseas as well. And we're in discussions with a number of groups in regards to offtakes. We have touched on this subject before, Jane, in regards to webinars, and we need an offtake with a real serious entity that provides financing. If I do an offtake with someone who doesn't provide any financing, it actually devalues the project. So we're not going to do that. Directors are far too strategic to do that and are heavily invested in the company. So we're looking for the right partner there, either on the financing side or on an offtake side. So maybe we're being fussy, but we have a very good world-class project, and I think we can afford to be.
Thanks for that. So there's quite a few questions coming through. So what innovative technologies or processes is Arizona Lithium employing to improve lithium recovery and processing efficiency at Prairie?
Zach, did you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, throughout our flow sheet, we're always looking at ways to reduce costs, reduce waste generation, increase efficiency. So I think it'd be inappropriate for me to name select vendors in our flow sheet at this time, but do know that we are looking at some of the top quality vendors throughout our flow sheet, depending on what our process requirement needs are.
Zach, I'm going to stick with you for this one, actually. So can you explain to shareholders why our DLE rather would be cost effective and had an additional margin over hard rock processing?
Yeah, I mean, we can refer to the DLE testing that we have done with companies that use an adsorbent material, where we strip the DLE material with an RO water, as opposed to using more energy intensive processing techniques. That's the beauty of DLE on North American brines, is that we can pump the brine to surface, we can treat it how we need it, and then we can flow it through these adsorbent materials and strip out the lithium through a cost-effective stripping process, and then concentrate and refine as needed. So,
thanks, Zach. Okay, next one. So how does spending $20 million on drilling equate to a $450 million in pad well value? And why is Arizona Lithium's market cap only 53 mil rather than the 400 mil US plus?
Well, I think the answer to that is the sentiment out there in the lithium space. Our directors and our management team continue to push out sensational announcements in the last 6 months, and there was no market reaction to that. In a better market, the stock would have been flying. We take our motivation from the fact that industry people congratulate us on our results, and more people go into our data room and talk about getting involved in the project. So our team is highly motivated still, and we're waiting for the market to recognise what we've accomplished over the last year. But there's a disconnect, and that's, I suppose, the person asking that question is referring to that. There's a massive disconnect, and we hope to close that disconnect in the new year.
Okay, M&A. So what have been some of the most recent M&A developments in the North American oil field lithium brine space? And how does Arizona Lithium see this playing out for smaller North American oil field brine players?
There's definitely been M&A activity in the public space with Rio and Exxon, etc., taking over Galvanic and starting to develop their project. And Look, as an aside, I'd say to shareholders, get onto the Exxon website and have a look at what they do with their brine activities down in Arkansas, in the Smackover, and then go onto the AZL website and have a look how we do the drilling. Obviously, we're a lean, mean company, and Exxon are a very large company. But if you look at the video of the flyover of the drilling operations, I think you appreciate that the AZL team have completed so much during the year with only $20 million and basically obtained the same results as companies like Rio and Exxon, sorry. But M&A activity has started, and there's some M&A activity that hasn't gone public as well. So it's just the start. Obviously, those larger companies are bottom feeding, and they're picking up assets cheaply because they are firm believers in the upswing in the market. So we just need to ride that upswing and stay the course.
Okay, wonderful. Next one, again, it's come through a few times. So can you provide an update on the Big Sandy project? What are the upcoming milestones and timeframes relating to the current legal proceedings, which have temporarily halted exploration drilling?
Yes. Well, the Big Sandy project is subject to a court case, so I have to be a little careful what I say. But just to remind shareholders that the court case relates to the Bureau of Land Management and the procedures that they followed prior to granting our drilling approvals. So AZL has joined that action so that we can assist the Bureau of Land Management, but AZL is not subject to that court case. We did not follow the procedure. The Bureau of Land Management followed their procedure. So at the moment, it is subject to completion. And as a worst case scenario, if it went back to the Bureau of Land Management to complete the procedure in a more effective and complete way, we do not lose the Big Sandy project. It's not as if it's a binary outcome. If it goes back to the kind of drawing board, then we follow procedures. We assist the Bureau of Land Management in doing that, and then we will obtain drilling approvals again. So it has to work its way through the court process in the US, and we are effectively bystanders in that process. But I keep very involved in the procedures, and I'm still confident that we will obtain drilling approvals. It's just a matter of timing.
Wonderful. So next one, okay. There has been talk about the new Trump administration expediting BLM applications for critical minerals. So is Arizona Lithium positioning itself to take advantage of this at Big Sandy?
Another good question. So the change in president, I think Zach might know, I think it's the 17th of January. Of course, the president comes in, inauguration, and there's a learning curve there. So President Trump appoints new people to run the various departments, and the Bureau of Land Management comes under the Department of the Interior. He has appointed another person to run that Department of Interior. We're very encouraged by that appointment, and we see that there will be change at that permitting process. I think President Trump will listen to the industry across the board, not just in regards to lithium, but copper, other commodities that are made and produced and refined in the US. But that won't happen in the first month or two. So we will start lobbying those new members of the administration, but it will be a period of time while they find their feet. Obviously, NTEC, Navajo Transitional Energy Corporation, our major shareholder, will assist greatly with that process.
There's quite a few questions actually just on this. So have you seen the US lithium brine market change following the US presidential election on the 5th of November and Trump's victory?
I actually arrived there on the night of the election. I noticed a general change in the mood of the population, less division, because it was an aggressive election campaign. And I think across the board in regards to general mining, people in Arizona, etc., are a lot more optimistic about getting projects off the ground into production. But not really an immediate change because the president actually hasn't taken the White House as yet.
Okay, next one again on Trump. So will the Trump tariffs affect sales of lithium with the United States?
Well, the North American lithium market is a cocoon, and one of the big players will be Exxon and some of the other large oil and gas companies. So if we're just north of the border there in Saskatchewan, those companies will be building refining capacity and they will need feed for those refineries. So I would suspect there might be a little bit of sticking the chest out at the moment, but I think Canada will come back into the fold. Mexico may not, but I'm not a political expert either. But we're comfortable that it will play out that Trump will get as close to Canada as he has been previously. So I'm not concerned about that. I think it's positive.
Wonderful. I'm just mindful of time, and it does look like we've gone through all the questions. So I think, Paul, just to reiterate, so what should investors be looking forward to from a news flow perspective into 2025?
Well, we talk about 2024 as a year of drilling and building and creating data, de-risking the Prairie project. I think 2025 will be a year of design and construction and production. So a lot to look forward to. We'll be showing the investors and shareholders the construction in Q2. There'll be some exciting moves there. And we will also upgrade our resource based on all the data from the previous drilling program in 2024. So a lot of news flow in regards to construction, and obviously we would also be talking about the financing and continue discussions with the people in the data room with the hope of finalising one of those transactions in 2025 or early 2025. So a lot to look forward to. Zach will be busy up there in Regina, Canada, managing the construction crew. We do have a good executive team. We have the Lithium Research Centre, and that will be very valuable as we go into construction and we hit production milestone at the end of 2025.
I apologize, actually, there's another one that's just come through. So what is the timeline for your first sales, and what price does lithium need to be at before it's viable to extract and send to the market?
Right. So you touched on a previous question in regards to spodumene, and I'm sure a lot of our shareholders would be very familiar with this, but there is no doubt that lithium brines are on the left-hand side of the cost curve, and spodumene is further onto the right-hand side. So in regards to a down price or a depressed price, if you want to be really negative, lithium brine projects are in the lowest of the cost quartile, and they produce a very good quality product. So we would like to see the market price much higher, but the OPEX on a lithium brine project in an oil field are very low, and we look forward to being the first company in North America to be producing from an oil field.
Wonderful. Okay, well, that does look like that's all the questions now. So I'd like to thank all the attendees for your questions, and Paul and Zach for joining me today. If we have missed anything, though, please feel free to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of our ASX releases. But thank you all again for joining us.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, shareholders.
Thank you.